What's up, everybody? So I set out to do a self-paced Bible study. And so to do that, I wanted to really focus on doing videos that were between 5 and 15 minutes so that we could get through a section at a time. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do with Matthew. And because of that, I'm doing it a little bit different. I'm not going to do whole chapters all of the time, but I'm going to break it into sections that are chunked up so that I can give as much insight into my studies as I can, and also allow you to interact with, different chunks of the Bible with me in the comments. Like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe if you want to catch these as they come out. But Matthew really hit me. This is the first time I've gone through gospel by gospel and separated them out. One of the things that stood out, I said this in the overview, is I mash the Gospels together sometimes. I get confused about which stories happen where. But when you take one Gospel and read it through and study it, you get, I think, two things happen. The Gospel communicates aspects of Jesus' character, and it's not a different character than the other Gospels, but it's a different flavor. It's a different perspective. And I think that everybody has their favorite Gospel when they start to study them. I'm reading through the other Gospels, and there is a voice that Matthew gives to this Gospel that is unique. So I'm going to go through chapter 1 here, and we're going to try this out. You let me know in the comments if you like it or not, the format. But so it starts off Matthew 1:1, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So right off the bat, we've got Jesus Christ to David to Abraham, which are kind of like two different ages, three different ages, right? You've got the Abraham and covenant, you've got the earthly authority of David, and then you've got the kingdom authority, sovereign authority of God in Jesus Christ. So Abraham was the father of Isaac, Jacob, all the way down. He gets to Judah and Perez and Zerah by Tamar. One of the more interesting things is that the genealogy that starts the book, the Greek word used is actually Genesis. And this idea of son of David, son of Abraham would have hit an early Jewish audience especially hard. That would have stood out to them as, hey, I have certain expectations now. Even Jesus' name, Yeshua, which was a common name of Joshua, would have said something to an early Jewish audience. These names are something that, like this, what it's evoking, you can look into your notes in the ESV Study Bible online. It's free, or a commentary, but I thought all those words are very interesting. So Matthew is starting very intentionally, like most Gospels. They're setting the stage very intentionally. And one thing to point out about the genealogy here is there's a genealogy in Luke as well. Matthew is focusing on the legal descent of Jesus, which is kind of interesting. So this idea is that we're eventually going to get to Joseph, which is kind of weird because in the Christmas story, we always think Mary, and Joseph's just kind of the dope going along with everything. Like in a lot of I feel like in a lot of Christian kids' stories that Joseph is just kind of this dope going along with it. Matthew focuses on why Joseph is important here. But one thing I do want to point out is there are 5 women in the genealogy. Tamar, who dressed up like a prostitute. There is Tamar, Rahab, right? Ruth. Okay? These are kind of tawdry tales. They're not the most pure of tales in the Bible. In fact, Rahab and Tamar dresses up as a prostitute. Rahab was a prostitute. So then you have David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah. So Bathsheba made it in here, an adulteress and an adulterer in David. And then we get to Mary, the mother of Jesus, is in here. And Mary is a portrait of purity. The mother of Jesus is a portrait of purity. However, the line of Jesus is pretty solid. Like there's quite a bit of human activity, sexual immorality, all these people. Judah, I mean, the fact that Jesus came from Judah's line is interesting. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in Judah's family. So this idea, what I took away from this is that God's sovereign plan is sovereign. God is going to use people despite their imperfections, and he's also going to set the stage appropriately. Jesus was born of a virgin, Mary, right? And so she becomes this symbol of purity that the Messiah comes forth from. So she is the mother of the Messiah, and she's pure and set aside by God. So another example of God's sovereign will being set apart. Like these things about God's sovereign plan are being set apart, including Mary. So people play the role that they have here. So there's also kind of an interesting thing here. I read that there's like kind of an alternating here between a good and a wicked king. Again, God's using the good and the bad here to culminate in a Messiah being born. And so Jewish custom, now when I said that Matthew focuses on the legal descent, Jewish custom would have been that Jesus is a rightful heir to the Davidic line through Joseph. And covenant promises related to Abraham and the land associated with that. So it's interesting because it goes through, and a lot of, like I said, he's kind of, Joseph oftentimes is treated as a chump, but it goes, Josiah, the father of Jeconiah, and his brothers at the same time. After deportation to Babylon, right? Shealtiel, Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was in a big deal post-exile. God actually gives Zerubbabel his signet, his authority in the prophetic literature. So after God says, you guys are messing up, I'm taking my signet from you, right? I'm taking the scepter. I'm taking the authority that I've given you. He gives it back to Zerubbabel. So this line, again, is the line that God has given earthly authority to. And it goes all the way down. And Eleazar was the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called Christ. So much less focus on Mary's role here, and actually in Matthew, Joseph gets a prime spot, which I thought was kind of interesting. So in verse 18, the birth story starts, and it says, "Now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. And her husband Joseph, being a just man, unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife. For that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel." So again, Joseph's taking a front row seat, right? So he says, you should call his name Jesus, for he will save his people, right? All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph had woke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but knew her not until she had given birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus. So again, it's setting up this portrait of Jesus coming from a completely pure background with Mary. Joseph honors his commitment. And again, you'll notice that Matthew, right out of the gates, is throwing out, hey, this is to fulfill prophecy. Behold, the virgin shall conceive. So he's pointing out specific Old Testament prophecies. And again, Jesus reiterates, I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. So I think it's also interesting that he says Joseph, son of David. The angel, again, reiterates son of David. So the angel speaks to Joseph here. Again, Joseph has a prime role. It references Isaiah 7:14, which is the Old Testament prophecy that Matthew references here. And they shall call his name Emmanuel. So Jesus is born. Jesus, Yeshua, God saves. And Emmanuel, God with us, are the meanings of those names, right? So that is chapter 1 of Matthew. And again, one of the least boring genealogies I've run into in the Bible. So, but with that, we'll head into chapter 2 next, which is the visit of the wise men and all that kind of stuff. But pretty interesting start to the book. I hope that gave you some insight into the first section here. Oftentimes we look right past the genealogies, but I hope that gave you some interesting things to look at in the genealogy. And so there's that. Anyways, like and subscribe, please, if you want to catch all these videos as they come out. I really appreciate it. It really helps me keep doing better on this channel. Hopefully you've noticed I say and a lot less, and I'm taking this pretty seriously because I'm trying to, make this channel the best that it can be. And hopefully that's allowing you to get some insight into these scriptures and study a chapter at a time on your pace. So that's what we've got. I will catch you in the next video. Peace.